Hello everybody! Welcome back to another episode of Mez's Pandemic Pantry. I know it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a good craft to get through. I've got some fabric, so I think you might already know what we're doing today. That's right, by popular request, we are going to make a doll. That's right. What kind of doll? A voodoo doll. A voodoo doll of none other than our beloved Prime Minister Scott Morrison. So you might be wondering, Mez, why would we want a voodoo doll of that horrible, horrible man? Well, not only can you absolutely stick pins into it if you want to. I've got some beautiful pearl-headed pins there. But you can also perform a bit of what I like to call constructive voodoo. So we're going to get started. Now, what you'll need for the base is just some fabric, the whitest you can find. That's very important. So you can see I've got a pillowcase here. We're going to cut this out into basically a rectangle. So for those of you who don't know about voodoo, it's not so much about getting every detail perfect, it's more about the intention. So all your thoughts and all your feelings about Scott Morrison, just channel it into this pillowcase, okay? So we're just going to get started. A few cuts. So I'm just going to cut. That's perfect. Okay, so I've got this very rough rectangle. Now this is how big I want my voodoo doll to be. You can make yours as large or as small as you like. Small enough to fit in your pocket, large enough to whatever you want to do. We're going to find the open edge, so that's this side for me, and we're just going to sew along here and close that up, okay? White as white thread to match our white as white. Alright, so first step's done, give that a little snip. And as you can see, we now have a closed rectangle. We're going to now make a little cut down here. That's going to be Mr. Morrison's legs. And as you can see, his little dangly legs to awkwardly dance with primary school children. And you might be thinking, Miss, you've forgotten to give him arms. That's not an accident. That's so that without arms, he won't be able to awkwardly hug people without their consent or wave pieces of coal around. Now is the exciting bit. It is time to stuff him. This is where what I was calling my constructive voodoo comes into play. So I think much like the classic movie The Wizard of Oz, Scott Morrison is missing a few, let's say, vital qualities that I think would really help him do a better job as the leader of our beautiful country. So we're going to start, just like in the movie, by perhaps identifying a few key characteristics that we think would really help Scott Morrison, along with how we're going to represent those in our voodoo. So, first, we're going to give him a brain. So here I'm representing his brain with some red yarn that I just had lying around. See, I love upcycling. We're going to stuff the brain right into his head, going through his feet. There it goes, it's getting up there. See, I only put a modest amount in because I am a reasonable woman. Okay, so his brain is in. Now we're going to stuff the rest of his head, and remember that we're keeping up with our theory of intention. So in keeping with our intention, we're going to stuff the rest of his head with some bullshit. So let me just find some bullshit that I've got lying around. Here we go. So I've got this old towel. This is a bit of bullshit. I'm just going to cut this into a roughly ScoMo head size. Just the entire time, just channeling our intention. So my intention is, Mr. Prime Minister, you don't have to be all brains. You can be mostly bullshit, but just a little bit of brains would be good. All right, so now we have one ScoMo head. So we're going to now tie this up at the neck. Okay, the next thing we're going to put in is a heart. Now, to represent his heart, I've got this beautiful bit of sort of maroon, you can't really tell on camera, but it's a beautiful maroon colour, and it's got all of this beautiful embroidery, which I think looks a little bit like arteries. I have tied it into a little twist, and I think that looks great. Popping this in, again going through his leg. There we go, so you can see, well, can you see? It's right there. That's about where a heart goes. The next thing we're going to do is give our beautiful doll a spine. I'm going to take some of the same white fabric that we made our doll from, and I'm going to cut a really thin strip. And what I love about this project is you don't have to go out and buy anything fancy, which we can't anyway because we're in lockdown, so that's handy. So I'm using this and I'm going to tie it into some knots, and that's going to represent all of the vertebrae that he so dearly needs. That's pretty good to me. Just 3 vertebrates will do for you. Okay, so now we have brain, heart, spine. We're getting closer. So now we're going to put in some more bullshit. So this is his torso bullshit, and let's put in a little bit more. He's looking a little bit gutless. That's all of the positive voodoo that we're going to do. Let's go on to our traditional voodoo. We just have to finish stuffing his legs. There he goes. He can't traipse about Hawaii if he's got no legs, can he? I'm getting a little bit impatient. I'm getting a little bit excited to get on with the voodoo. So what we're going to do is we're just going to really quickly finish up our doll. He's a little bit floppy. Okay, so he's all finished. Doesn't he look fabulous? Say hello, Scott. We just have to work on the face. Okay, I've got my markers here, and now I'm going to take my pink marker and give him a little smirky, smug smile. Some beady little eyes. I found these little pearl dot stickers, and so I might just make them black. Oh, and you can see the brains behind his eyes. Isn't that fantastic? Oh, wouldn't that be great? We're just going to do a bit of an impressionist version of his suit. See, it looks exactly like him. Oh, and he's got dimples, doesn't he? Let's add a little dimple to his little smirk. Do you have any questions for Mr. Prime Minister that you'd like him to answer? I hope you enjoyed today's COVID crafts. I'd love to see your voodoo doll if you want to show me, and let me know how you did yours differently. Did you add more detail? Did you add other body parts? What was your symbolism? And now I'm going to enjoy my doll. Feels good, yeah, feels good. Yeah, it's worth it. Worth ruining a good pillowcase.